Hello friends, welcome back. Today we're going to use a ternary expression for conditional rendering. Before moving on to dynamic rendering techniques, there's one last way to use built-in JavaScript conditionals to render what you want, the ternary operator. The ternary operator is often utilized as a shortcut for if-else statements in JavaScript. They're not quite as robust as traditional if-else statements, but they are very popular among React developers. One reason for this is because of how JSX is compiled. If-else statements can't be inserted directly into JSX code. You might have noticed this a couple challenges ago when an if-else statement was required. It was always outside the return statement. Ternary expressions can be an excellent alternative if you want to implement conditional logic within your JSX. Recall that a ternary operator has three parts, but you can combine several ternary expressions together. Here's the basic syntax. So the condition, so this is like whether it's true or false, a true or false statement. And we're saying if it is, so then we say if the expression is true, we execute this block of code, and if it's not, we execute the false block of code. The code editor has three constants defined within the check user age component's render method. So here's the check user age component, and it says it has three constants defined within here. So let's see, where are the constants? Here we have constant button 1, constant button 2, and constant button 3. Now I'm going to just spread this out so that we can see it better, because I can't stand it when it's all clogged together like that. Yeah. I'm actually just going to stretch it out even more. So button 1, button 2, and button 3. Those are the three constants. Each of these is assigned a simple JSX expression representing a button element. First initialize the state of check user age with input and user age, both set to values of an empty string. First initialize the state of check user age. Okay, the state. Okay, cool. So that's up here. This is where we initialize that. So we go this.state. We're going to set that equal to an object with input and user age, both set to values of an empty string. Okay, cool. So again, we're setting state. This dot state dot input and user age. And now actually the JavaScript's rendering. Okay, cool. Once the component is rendering information to the page, users should have a way to interact with it. Within the component's return statement, so the component's return statement, which is here, set up a ternary expression that implements the following logic. When the first page loads, render the submit button, button 1, to the page. Then, when a user enters their age and clicks the button, render a different button based on the age. If a user enters a number less than 18, render button 3. If a user enters a number greater than or equal to 18, render button 2. Okay, got it. So we want to change the code just on this line. So we're passing in an object, but I mean, it looks like we can decide what we're going to do by this. Now, this is all ternary, right? So what we want to do is say the condition. Let's say, so the condition would be, well, we want to say age, right? User age. So this dot state dot input is greater than 18. So if it's greater than 18, right? What is it? The number is less than 18. Well, let's do that. Let's say if this dot state dot input is less than 18, then we want to render button 3. Or else we want to render button 2. And we can say, maybe we could also go this dot state dot input is equal to 0, if this dot state dot input is equal to empty, then we render button 1. Huh. No, that can't be right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get rid of this guy, and I'm going to run the tests for now. See what happens. When the check user age component is first rendered to the DOM, the button's inner text should be submit. Okay, so we've got the less than 18 button working. We need to set it another ternary operator, right? We could say if this dot state dot input is equal to an empty string, then we want to go with this guy. Else, maybe just an empty string. No. If it's this, what we want to do is we want to go with button 1. Else, we want to go with this guy. So if they put in 18, it's less than 18, then we're good. So this is the first conditional. So we're basically layering in these guys in, right? Here we've got a condition followed by a question mark, expression, and then if true, we go button 1. If it's not true, we do the expression for false. But we do the expression for false, we do a nested ternary operator. And so if this dot state dot input is less than 18, which means we're back at this guy, condition, if it is true, then we render button 3, and if it's not, we render button 2. Let's see if this works. Run the tests. Looks like something's not right. Let's run down here. Once a number has been submitted and the value of the input is once again changed, the button should return to reading submit. Okay, so this dot handle change. Handle change sets the user age to here. User age input is equal to e.target.value. User age is equal to 0. This dot state dot input. Oh, maybe this dot state dot user age. Okay, cool. That was what it was. It needed to be user age. So I'm thinking we go 18 and we go submit. It says you may enter. If we go 20, if we go 17 and we go submit, you shall not pass. Okay. Seems like it doesn't work quite as well because it should go to the back to the submit button. But anyways, that's just for the passing of the code. So yeah. I guess the key here is to check for the user age. So when the DOM first renders, the user age is set to an empty string. So if it's set to empty string, then we get button 1, which is the button 1 has the button on click submit. And then, okay, so button 2 doesn't actually do anything. So because it's set to button 1, we render the empty thing. And then if we were to say 19 and we click submit, on click on this dot submit, we run into this section in which we set the state for the user age to be equal to the state dot input. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is actually making sense. So user age becomes 18. And then we say if this dot state dot user age is equal to a blank, no, it's not. This dot state, and so it's not. So instead of doing this value, which it would render if it were true, it renders this value, which it renders because it knows it's false. And this happens to be a conditional. So this is going to render out. If the age is greater than 19, if 19 is less than 18, that's not true. So it renders the false statement. If it were 17, if the user age were 17, which is less than 18, then we render button 3. So I guess the greater thing to do here would be go, if it's greater than 18, go button 2, else button 3. Because then at least we have this is like unknown, this is too young and old enough. But it should be greater than 17 to be right. Cool. So yeah, it's greater than 17. So if somebody writes 18, it should say you may enter. And if somebody writes 17, then submits, it says you shall not pass. You shall not pass. Anyways, cool. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. We'll see you in the next lesson.